Good morning again, viewers, and thank you for staying with us. Welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you choose us here at Tobago Updates Television. And we're talking about Pharmacy Week, which begins next week. And with me this morning are two pharmacists. Yes, you know, long time when you see doctors and pharmacists, they look a particular way, but they're getting into the profession much younger and quite competent and able to deal with all these issues. So joining me is Amiri Hackett and Kerdijah Benjamin. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Now, I know both of you are based at the Scarborough Hospital, and I don't know, some of our viewers may be saying, yes, I know those faces. I know those faces when I come there to get my prescriptions filled. And as we talk about Pharmacy Week, I want you to tell me a little more of what Pharmacy Week is all about.
Okay, so firstly, Pharmacy Week is celebrated on the third week in October each year. So this year, Pharmacy Week would be celebrated on the 19th of October to the 24th, with Pharmacy Assistant Day being on the 21st. So what we do for Pharmacy Week is that patients would be educated on whatever concerns or issues that they may have with their health conditions or their medications, or generally we would educate the public on any common conditions patients are affected by holistically in the country. Also, Pharmacy Week would highlight patients, well, not really patients, well, persons who would work in the profession. They would highlight them for their dedication to the work, and they would be recognized for their efforts.
And what I appreciate about the healthcare system, sometimes we just see those who are on the front line, but there are so many different persons who make the system run. And of course, without the pharmacist, you know, giving us the right dosage, etc. And even sometimes we have to admit a doctor may make an error, and you're the one who may pick up on it and, you know, send back the patient. Go and ask a doctor this question. This prescription looks a bit off, or the dosage is incorrect. So of course, we do celebrate our pharmacists throughout Trinidad and Tobago and the world, and recognize the important part and contribution they play to our healthcare system. Of course, days like this would always have a theme. What's this year's theme?
So this year's theme would be every dose counts, every pharmacist matters.
And I like that. It's very catchy. So for those who didn't know there's a Pharmacy Week, yes, there is a Pharmacy Week, and we are exploring every dose counts, every pharmacist matters. So when you meet your pharmacist, whether it's in the private drugstore or public health system, be kind, smile, right? Wish them a good day. It's not they have you waiting forever. The system is just like that, all right? So be nice to them. They are working hard. And of course, I must ask, we're talking about Pharmacy Week. You all are pharmacists. What do pharmacists do?
Well, to be fair, you started off giving a pretty good account of what we do. When you talked about noticing errors or making the necessary changes to preserve the patient's safety.
Right.
But to go into more detail, as pharmacists, we are tasked mainly with being the experts on the medications. And then from there, we're responsible for collaborating with the other members of the healthcare team to ensure that patient safety is preserved, to ensure that the prescriptions we fill and dispense do not do harm to the patient,
Right.
adjusting dosages, ensuring the patient's quality of life is preserved, and also helping them understand and manage their conditions better.
Right, and that's very important. And I hope viewers who are listening, especially those of you who need to take your medications, and sometimes we miss dosage, and sometimes we reinterpret the instructions the pharmacist write for us. Stop that. Don't do that. All right, the instructions are there, as you heard the pharmacist here. It's to safeguard us, to keep us safe. And as we look at this field, I'm sure there are misconceptions. In every profession, there's always a story that's told it's not true. Tell us some that you may come across in your industry, in your field.
Well, I mean, the main one that gets repeated to us a lot is that the job is as simple as just handing out or dispensing the medication.
Right.
But unfortunately, there's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot of double checking, triple checking, collaborating, and contacting doctors to ensure the medication, the dosages are correct, to ensure there's no interactions taking place,
Right.
to ensure the patient actually understands what their condition is and why they're taking the medication.
Right.
Sometimes, as you would have mentioned, patients may think they waited for a long time for no reason, but there's a lot of meticulous checking that has to go into the job we do
Right.
to ensure that they are safe and their therapy is optimized.
And I think, again, that is so important in terms of understanding. And if I can just share, sometimes I always share little stories with you viewers, because I remember getting a prescription for one of my boys, and the doctor would have wrote something. And of course, you trust your doctor, right? But we are all human, and sometimes mistakes are made. And when I got to the pharmacist, at the outpatient clinic, she picked it up one time and she asked me a question, and she said, you need to go back to the doctor, and this is the question you're going to ask. And I think that pharmacist might have been your supervisor, right? She picked it up one time and she said, you need to go back, and this is the question to ask, and it was rectified, immediately. So we really have to appreciate what you do. I want you to also share with us, how can patients take care or take charge of their health and their medications?
Okay, so the two best ways a patient could take charge of their medication, I would say, is to listen and to ask questions. So most times a patient will come to the pharmacy and they're so eager to leave, because we are more or less the last
stop,
person,
yes.
in the healthcare system the
Yes.
patient would see.
Right.
And because of this, patient would be leaving with a certain level of uncertainty, just because they're anxious or they're overwhelmed because they're ready to leave. And sometimes it could be even when it was by the doctor would have diagnosed them with an issue, or they would have prescribed something for them and they're not fully aware of what was said. At that point in time is when the patient is supposed to maximize the pharmacist to understand their diagnosis or their medication. So I believe that our healthcare team at the moment, and holistically, they would be able to provide information to the patients and to empower patients to improve their quality of life, and that would in turn improve better health care outcomes. So I would wholeheartedly recommend that patients would ask questions before they leave,
Right.
if any uncertainty, and that would help the patient to take care of their health and their medication, take charge. Yeah.
Again, very good advice. Ask your questions. Yes, you've been in clinic all morning, you're hungry, you're stressed, we know, and you just want to grab that white bag and go, right? But make sure you listen. What I do appreciate is that how you go over the instructions, because, doctors are known for their special handwriting, and sometimes you're there, you read the prescription, you figure out some. If you're in the system long enough like me, you know what all the numbers that look like fractions mean, if it's once a week, if it's once for the month, etc., when to come back for your refills. But, when you do collect your meds at the counter, I really appreciate the fact that it's typed out, the label is clear, and the pharmacist goes through the instructions and tells you this is how much you're taking, the dosage, and when, etc. I just want us to just add in terms of taking charge of your meds. So sometimes we get the meds and we just throw it any old way in the house, or sometimes we keep it in the car. When we expose meds to extreme temperatures or not take care of it, does it change how it works within us? And should we be more attentive in terms of how we handle our meds at home?
Yeah, we definitely should be, especially with the climate we live in. A lot of the medications, they would have been manufactured in a way to ensure they are released at specific rates within the body.
Right.
So if they begin to decompose, or if they're not stored properly, that can affect how the medication works within the body. So that could lead to shortcomings in terms of simple things like blood sugar management.
Right.
Like certain medications are modified release or extended release. If that release profile is changed, that could lead to the patient's blood sugar dropping much more quickly than desired, which obviously we know could lead to some serious effects.
Right. So it's very important that we understand the storage of the meds and not just to expose it to extreme temperatures. And please, viewers, check on your senior parents, your senior family members. Remind them to take their meds. Ask them how much they take. You should know the instructions as well, so you can check up on them. And even those of you who have your own meds, because I know how we are. We missed this morning, so this evening we pop two in, yeah? We can't do things like that. We will get everybody in trouble. And we like to play the blame game. So thank you so much for spending time with us. And I want the rest of us to recognize our pharmacists. Remember, don't just be nice to them next week because it's pharmacy week, right? But they really contribute to our health system, and what they do is very, very integral. I mean, we are getting our meds. We have to use it to help improve whatever is going on in our bodies. And if they don't get it right, then we're in trouble. And as you heard, that it's very meticulous. They're not just pulling something from the cabinet and giving you to go, right? They have to ensure the right dosage. Even when the doctor says the meds come in 1 mg and it's 10 mg and all these different intricacies. So it's not that simple. Be patient. And again, we wish you both all the best. And it's so good to see young persons entering the profession. And as we wrap up, I want you to encourage, because we have young viewers as well. We have parents who have children who would have written exams and they're not sure where to go. Why should we get into to be a pharmacist? Why should one consider to be a pharmacist?
Well, for me, I would say that persons should be encouraged, because you will be a part of bridging the gap between life and death.
Right.
So that was something that was inspiring to me, because sometimes you watch a prescription, the patient don't know what is written on the prescription, and it's the pharmacist who is there to say, this is wrong, go back, get it double checked.
Right.
And then the patient will get it checked out. The doctor would admit and say, that was probably an error in our half. I mean, humans do make mistakes.
Yes,
we're not holding anybody to it.
No.
But just the comfort of doing that, you contributed to save a life, is what I would say, and encourage persons to be a pharmacist.
Right. And what about you? Why did you get into this field?
I don't want to answer that one too honestly, but I would
answer it in a way, because I put these two young persons on the spot, right? They didn't know I was going to ask them this, because this is their profession. So I thought it would be nice to share. But answer it in a way that would encourage someone to think about considering the profession.
Well, I mean, pharmacy as a profession, I mean, as Kerdijah would have said, is you play a big role in ensuring the quality of life of your patients, which is our opportunity to help people,
right,
first and foremost. And obviously, as we would have talked about, the detail-oriented nature of the job is definitely something that I gravitated towards, given my personal preferences and aptitudes.
Right.
So, since coming into the profession, I think I've come to enjoy it even more than I would have expected to.
Excellent.
So to anybody who has a background in science or has interest in the medical field, I definitely recommend pharmacy as an area worth getting into.
Excellent. And it's quite important to know that all of you out there cannot and will not be doctors or nurses. Yes, and there are many other professions in the healthcare system, whether you work in the lab, whether you maintain the equipment. So do some research and put pharmacists right to the top of your list as you explore and do your own research. So thank you again for joining us this morning. Viewers, it is a Friday, the 17th of October, and as we always say, your weekend has begun. But remember, you are your brother's keeper. Remember to be safe. And of course, in Tobago, all things carnival has definitely begun. Not all of us do take part in the carnival activities, but for those of you who do, be a little extra diligent, be a little extra cautious. Use up here, all right, while you do enjoy yourself. And of course, we are bringing to you the action live right here on Tobago Updates Television, and we kick off this evening at 7 p.m. as we bring you the Monarchs of Mass, and that's taking place in Carnival City. Did you know there's a Carnival City? Of course, it's at Market Square Car Park, where all things Tobago Carnival will be happening there as a center stage. So if you can't make it in person, join us this evening at 7 p.m. as we bring you the action live. So until we meet again, remember to stay safe, and yes, you are your brother's keeper.
Let's go, go. It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning as the passion starts.